I mean, to be honest with you, Dan, this was the sort of halfway, pathetic attempt at a halfway house that we've come to expect from the BBC. I mean, to be honest with you, the BBC shouldn't be pandering to these activists at all. No one listens to Land of Hope and Glory or Rule Britannia and thinks of slavery or any of those other connotations that seem to be expected by these activists. I really just think that, as the Prime Minister set out, and by the way, isn't it good to have Boris Johnson back? I was so happy to hear him actually say, I really wish the BBC would just ignore this sort of thing by, his language. The language he used really was what you'd expect from Boris. It was stereotypical Boris, and we've heard all of these rumours about him leaving office in a little 6 months or so. I don't think that's the case. I think we've got Boris back if he continues like this, because at the end of the day, Dan, these activists absolutely must be ignored because it's dangerous, pulling down our history, rewriting history, telling us that this one cultural event that we have once a year in which we sing one patriotic song is unacceptable for some bizarre reason. We can't even have this one event. The Prime Minister was absolutely right to call on us to, stop this cringe and embarrassment about our history, about our traditions and our culture. And this general fight, he said, of self-recrimination and wetness. And that was Boris at his best. More of that, Dan, I say.
What interested me, Darren, is just before he said it in this little news clip today, he said, they're trying to restrain me from saying this. And that concerned me, actually, Darren, because it made me think that perhaps there are people around Boris Johnson, whether he's referring to advisors or members of the civil service or fellow cabinet ministers, I don't know. But he is making the suggestion that there are people in his life, in his world, that are trying to stop Boris be Boris.
Yes, I mean, to be honest with you, Dan, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that there are people in or around the Conservative Party who are as wet as those activists that are trying to complain to the BBC. I mean, I've just wrote a piece for Con Home on how it is that whilst we all say Twitter isn't the real world, I think increasingly the power of the activists on Twitter are evident in our institutions like the BBC, and even to some extent, I think, parts of Her Majesty's government, it must be said. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. But listen, let's take heart in the fact that the Prime Minister is clearly his own person. Is clearly someone who said enough is enough. I am not going to allow these activists to destroy our culture and our history and try and denigrate that culture and that history. And he was quite, I guess, brave then if he's standing up against his own advisors, because he was right to do so. And I think the country, watching him on and listening to him on the radio, will be very, very grateful to hear this from the PM.
And let's be honest, this is what people are talking about today. And it's what people were talking about yesterday. And it was on 4 national newspaper front pages. So it's not like he's weighing in on a small issue. This is a big issue for his base. And by the way, Darren, when I talk about his base, I actually talk about real Brits, people outside the Westminster bubble, people who actually care about our culture, our history. That's who I think Boris Johnson's base is.